Let's be real. Family court can be one of the most stressful, confusing experiences anyone can go through. It's supposed to be a place for resolution, right? But for so many people, it just feels like an overwhelming maze. So today, we're going to walk through a guide that's all about helping you find your footing and stay grounded through it all.
You know, the whole thing often starts with this feeling that's just really hard to put into words. And this quote, it just nails it. You're dealing with patterns that feel retaliatory, confusing, and, yeah, deeply traumatizing. But when you try to explain it, it all sounds normal on paper. If that hits home for you, then you are absolutely in the right place.
So first, we've got to talk about the environment itself. There's this phenomenon we're going to call the courtroom fog, and it's all about how the legal process on its own can take a huge toll.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. The harm doesn't just come from the other person in your case. The legal process itself can become a major source of psychological harm. This is a real thing. It even has a name: court-induced trauma.
So what does that actually feel like? Well, does any of this sound familiar? That sinking feeling in your stomach when an email from a certain person pops into your inbox? Or maybe you find yourself replaying hearings or accusations over and over in your head, like a movie you can't turn off. It can even show up physically: panic attacks, nausea, that tightness in your chest. And maybe the worst part? That very real, very normal stress is then used against you, twisted into evidence that you're unstable.
Okay, so recognizing the trauma is a huge first step. But step 2 is where you start to take back some control. It's about getting clear by learning how to name the specific, harmful patterns you might be seeing.
And the main tool we're going to use for that is something we'll call a red flag. Now, a red flag isn't just one single bad moment. It's a pattern of behavior, a pattern that feels confusing or retaliatory, even when, on the surface, each individual piece might seem normal. The key word here is pattern.
And this is so important. This isn't about getting emotional or pointing fingers. Naming these patterns is simply the first, most vital step to turn that feeling of chaos into something you can work with: a clear, factual timeline.
All right, let's dive into our first specific pattern, and this is a big one. It's called retaliation. It's that feeling that you're being punished every single time you try to speak up or stand up for yourself. So, what is it exactly? It's a pattern where, like clockwork, something negative happens right after you try to exercise your rights. You file a totally reasonable complaint, you ask a simple question, and suddenly things get way harder for you. And of course, no one ever comes out and says, "I'm retaliating against you." It's all in the timing, in the sequence of events.
So how does this actually show up in real life? Does any of this ring a bell? You file a complaint and bam, your hearings get abruptly rescheduled. Or maybe reports suddenly start describing you with loaded words like you're obsessed with the case or litigious. You might see new restrictions pop up out of the blue with no new safety concern to justify them. This checklist is all about helping you connect those dots.
Okay, so what can you actually do about it? It's a really simple two-step process. First up, you document the pattern. Keep it dead simple and factual on a timeline. On this date, I did X. On this date, Y happened. Then, step 2 is about how you talk about it. You use safer, more neutral language. So instead of saying, "they're punishing me," you state, "on this date, I filed my request. After that, these specific changes occurred." You see the difference? It's so much more powerful.
All right, this next red flag is something a lot of people get stuck in. We're calling it the permanent trap, and it usually has to do with supervised visitation.
So here's the deal. Supervised visitation is supposed to be a temporary safety tool, right? But it becomes a trap when it just stretches on, turning into a long-term punishment with no clear way out. You're left stuck with no finish line, no goalpost to aim for. It's just indefinite.
So how can you tell if you're caught in this trap? Take a look at your court order. Is it just open-ended, with no timeline or review date? Are the reasons for it based on vague concerns instead of specific documented findings? Have you had months and months of totally positive, incident-free visits, but there's zero talk of a step-down plan? Or is it just so expensive or logistically impossible that they've almost set you up to fail? These are all huge red flags.
And here's the game plan for responding. Step 1, document every single visit. Keep a simple log: date, time, what you did, positive interactions, and, this is critical, note the absence of any safety issues, which is often none. Step 2, you request clear criteria. But you frame it positively. You say something like, I fully support safety. I'm requesting a performance-based step-down plan with clear, achievable goals. This flips the script and shows you're being proactive and focused on solutions.
Okay, so we've looked at two very specific patterns. Now let's zoom out and pull it all together. Let's build your core toolkit that helps you move from feeling totally helpless to feeling empowered.
If you remember one thing from all of this, please let it be this. You have got to shift your focus away from trying to figure out why someone is doing something, their motives, and instead focus entirely on recording the sequence of events. Why? Because in court, motives are subjective. They're almost impossible to prove. But a sequence of events, that's factual, that's evidence. And just think about what that shift actually looks like. Instead of thinking, they want to punish me, you document, first this happened and then that happened. Instead of feeling, this is so unfair, you state the fact, the order lacks a review date. This moves you out of a position of emotion and into a position of factual strength. It all boils down to this simple, repeatable three-part toolkit. First, you identify the patterns using these kinds of checklists. Second, you document everything on factual, emotion-free timelines and logs. And third, you communicate using that safer, neutral language to state the facts and make your requests. Identify, document, communicate. That becomes your mantra.
And finally, I want you to hold on to this. Noticing these patterns is not crazy. It's a sign your mind is still working, even under pressure. That feeling of being on high alert, that hypervigilance you might be experiencing, it is not a sign that you're unstable. It's the sign of a mind that is working overtime to make sense of chaos and to protect itself. It's a sign of your strength.